Hi, everybody. I don't know if anybody's out there because I just decided to go live in the middle of the night on a Saturday. You can watch this back later. Been thinking a lot about cards lately, and oh, hello, Lady Blind Wolf. First to arrive. You could do me a favor if you would, and let me know if you can hear me okay or if it's too noisy on my end. Because it's quite warm and I have the air conditioner going, and I don't know if the mic is overpoweringly picking that up or not. So if you have trouble hearing me because of the air conditioning, let me know and I'll turn it off. If not, it helps cool me a little bit. Clicking noise. I don't know what that is. Let me turn the AC off and see. Oh, I do have a little fan going, but it's pretty quiet. Do you still hear clicking? The mic is in the computer, and if I move it away from the fan, I have to take this with me somewhere. I don't really have anywhere to take it. Hi, Kaz. Hi, Michelle. Any better? I'll just leave the little fan going then and see if that. Oh, Lady Blind was still not better. Let me turn the fan off and see if it's better. Now there's nothing. Can you hear me now, Lady Blind Wolf? Michelle, you're new. Welcome. This was kind of impromptu, and it was a last minute kind of thing. Sometimes I just sort of feel like, here I am in the middle of the night. Not exactly insomnia, but just don't feel like sleeping, or I napped earlier and oh, don't hear it anymore. Okay, now I don't know which of the fans or ACs I can turn back on. We'll see. If I start sweating, we'll just have to deal with it. Yeah, it's Saturday night. It's about a little after 3 a.m. here in New York City. I don't know what it is where you are. Just thought I'd ramble a little bit with you. I usually get really kind of nervous and self-conscious when I do lives and have trouble relaxing. I feel like I have to fill up all the empty space with chit chat and ramblings, and sometimes those things just don't come easy. It's always kind of easier in a way to have a guest or something that I can have a conversation or a dialogue with. I did have a few things though on my mind about cards. Last night I had a lot of fun. I was up kind of late at night, sort of snuggled up in bed with a lap tray on and my headlamp on and the lights off, and just looking through some decks that I have. I have several trays of decks on the side of my bed, and sometimes I just kind of like to handle the cards and, leaf through them and have a look at the pictures. And I was revisiting some that I hadn't looked at in a while, and sometimes you get a deck that you love right away, and other times you don't right away, and you think, oh, this is nice, but not for right now, and you put it away, put it aside, and then you revisit it later and you have this whole new appreciation later on. It's like this happened for me. I'm revisiting the Golden Tarot by Cat Black. And for people that don't know this, I mean, it's been around a long time. I think since the early 2000s. And it was the first digital collage deck I think I ever came across, and I thought it was excellently put together. It's the version I had matte cards, which was okay, but I wasn't crazy about. And then a friend of mine got a newer edition of it that has the glossy cards, and he wanted the matte ones, so we traded. And I really, really like it. I'm generally not fond of glossy cards. I like them with the sheen, but not matte. But these don't bother me. There's something about this deck that's really luxe for me. I mean, they're collage from old medieval and Renaissance paintings that we aren't familiar with. So she took elements from different older paintings and collaged them together digitally. And they look sort of familiar, except that maybe only in the style. I didn't see any images that I could identify immediately with an old master or anything. And she did that on purpose, not to pick really well-known images and reuse them. And so I really like it. And I like the borders on them. And it's maybe a little difficult to photograph, but they aren't that reflective when I'm using them, just because the light's hitting them here. But really, really beautiful, warm colors and combined images. And some people have criticized this deck because of sort of some religious references or content. But that seems totally in keeping to me with the period of medieval and Renaissance art. And you can read a card without dwelling on any religious aspect. There are some sobering or dark images in the deck, but I think they go well with the period of the paintings. I mean, they were dark times, difficult times. And they're just really, some of the faces I'm finding really draw me in emotionally. And there's a lot of detail too, like a lot of patterned clothing with lots of details that you can clearly see. You know, those are the backs. Just really, really pretty cards. And I'm enjoying looking at them as I would a painting in an art history museum. There's so many details in them. It's sort of like if I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and sat on a bench in front of a painting on a wall and looked at the image and sorted through the symbols, which is kind of my original approach to tarot anyway, like looking at art in museums. These are gilded too, and I'm not a big fan of gilding, but because these are like classical paintings, I think the gilding is appropriate, like gilded frames in museums. And I think the gloss is sort of appropriate too. Most of those paintings have a kind of a clear varnish on the front of them to preserve them. Let me just back up a little bit and see what people have to say. Michelle Shining Light, she's a night owl, loved the late videos. I might do more of these, but it's oh, Michelle's in Ohio. Kaz doesn't know this deck. I'm surprised because it's been around forever. It also comes in one of those really, really hard boxes. It's almost like wood or something. And it has a flip top. It seems sort of like the stuff that Los Garabeo puts out, but it's actually US Games. And my biggest fault with US Games is the prominent copyrights on cards. These are not that bad. They're in, where is it? There. It's in the border. But you can see it almost blends in with this border. It just kind of depends on how much attention you pay to the borders. And there's so much going on in the cards that I tend to really not pay much attention to the copyright, and it's fairly small. I don't know why sometimes the copyrights drive me crazy, and other times they don't bother me. Depends on the deck, I guess, and the colors and the contrasts and how much they interfere with what you're looking at. Lady Blind Wolf was going to do a reading for witches tonight, but her mind isn't right, you know. Sometimes when you get a deck, maybe it isn't for you right then, but then it calls to you later. Yeah, and also I've gotten so familiar with the Rider-Waite system that if the cards don't initially read that way, I tend to sort of like put them aside. I want them really approachable. Sometimes I think I'm just lazy and I don't want to do the work, but other times you have decks where they don't really fit. You know, they almost seem randomly assigned images, and you kind of have to make them work for you. And I now have committed the RWS to memory enough that I can identify a card by the label, the number, the rank, the suit, and then I can go intuitively into the images and work it out. Sometimes the images still don't work for me, but they're pretty images. Other times, you know, as you look at it for a longer time, you start to be able to read with it better. For instance, I do love the artwork of Nicoletta Ciccoli. And I bought her deck because I like the images, but they didn't make any sense to me at all. And Lisa Papez actually did a video earlier on it and is making sense of it now. She's worked with it for about a month. And I thought, well, this might be a good excuse for me to revisit the deck. So my main thing tonight was I was going to just sit quietly and go through the deck one card at a time, look at the label or text, and remember in my mind what that is in the RWS, and then try to relate to it through this deck, image by image, see if I could find something new. And so what I thought, I just pulled one here. This is my particular significator card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The Three of Wands I identify with very much. And I pulled this card and I thought, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I get this card as the Three of Wands. But even just spending a little bit of time with it, I thought, okay, the Three of Wands in the RWS is, for me, a position of having accomplished a certain amount. You've taken initial steps, but now you're at a standstill moment trying to decide where to go next, what to do next. Do you walk down the hill to the sea and hop on one of those boats? Do you maybe turn around and go back? Do you go a different direction? What do you do? And so I'm looking at this one, I'm thinking, well, here's this little sort of fairy type figure landed in this tree. She's got wings. She's landed in this tree. The tree is bare at the top and it's got blossoms at the bottom. So there's a hint, there's a standstill landed in a tree. There's two sides of a tree dying or a tree blossoming. So it's sort of like, well, which direction are you leaning in? What are you doing next? Are you growing and building, or are you stuck? Are you letting things stagnate? And then we've got a dog, I think it's a dog, down here at the base, sniffing around and sort of usually trying to follow a trail. If a dog is sniffing around, it's trying to decide, where does the trail lead? So I think all those things actually work for the Three of Wands. It's sort of like a consideration card. I'm considering, where do I want to fly off to next? Or do I just want to stay here and think about it longer? So, yeah, I think that's something that I usually struggle with, particularly when you have art cards where paintings seem randomly assigned to the tarot and they weren't originally designed to be a part of a tarot. Then you have to have a sort of a make it work moment and figure out what to do with them or how to read with them. And I think I sort of did that with I do that with pip decks in general and Marseille decks. I often refer back to my memorized images from the RWS and then try to figure out a way to intuit from the image and its limitations how it might work in that system. Sounds like what they did with that Disney Villains tarot deck. Yeah, all of those Disney decks are pip decks. I don't know what to make of those. I think the only one I got was the Alice in Wonderland one, which I don't really care very much about. And I don't know why they do that. I don't know if they've only commissioned artists for the majors and they don't want to spend the time or the money to do all the pips with scenes on them. It just seems like an easy way out. And I know a lot of collectors aren't happy with that. At the same time, a lot of people don't like just using the majors to read with, and I do like to do that. But I kind of prefer a majors only deck to be majors only, not casting aside the minor suits that come with it. Which type of readings do you use this deck for? I'm guessing, since this is far back in the chat, that you're talking about the Golden Tarot. I haven't actually used it for readings. I mean, I pretty much only read for myself. I have on very rare occasion done some readings online, but it's a bit iffy. And I actually like, I tend not to read online because I like more interplay or interaction with the person I'm reading for. Usually, I don't get enough information from them. I mean, I'd be willing to do a reading tonight if anybody wanted to give me a question and add additional information. I generally do 3-card spreads, and I approach my readings. The center card is the center of the situation, and then it sort of spreads out from that to either side. Sometimes it feels like it falls into a past, present, future. Sometimes it's just sort of things surrounding or affecting or impacting the center card, elements of activity that are surrounding you. So that's kind of the way I read that. And then if I really want to do an extensive reading, I tend really not to do Celtic cross readings. But I do have one with a number of cards. I call it the inverse pyramid. And I do either 3 or 5 cards in a row at the top. And then under that, consecutively decreasing rows until you get down to 1 card. So it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I not only read the cards in each row, but I read them in pairs and triplets. So, this is a little difficult to explain without showing you. But so on the top row, I see what the first 2 cards read, how they interact with one another. And then I also see how the whole row works. But second row, I do the same thing with the first 2 cards. But now I take the first card in the second row and then pair it with the 2 above it. So I pair it with the first card and with the second card, and then as a trio. And I read all of those. Sounds really convoluted, I know. And so then I work my way down. And then finally, you end up with a single card, which is sort of the whole reading kind of coalesced or what's the word? When you cook stuff in a pot and it's sort of like the liquid cools off. Evaporates off, and you get a really rich broth or rich flavor at the bottom. I forget what that's called, but kind of like that. It's sort of like you take a lot of cards and they all kind of work together down into 1 card. And I find that works really well for me, and it's a lot of fun. Lady Blind Wolf is talking about the Disney cartoons from when she was a kid. Now, the other issue that I had with the Disney decks is that they're not actually taken from the old cartoons. They have new artists trying to sort of recapture the art or recreate it. And so even the Alice deck, it looks similar to the quality of the Alice in Wonderland movie, but it's not. It almost looks like it was designed by one of the Disney background painters or something. So the color palette is similar, and it has a quality that's similar, but it's not actual stills from the movies, which I think would be more enjoyable to Disney movie and cartoon fans. Michelle's sister primarily uses the Golden Tarot as her primary deck. Kaz was into tarot in the late 80s and just came back to it last year. Hello, Leanne. Pepper Jackie, hello. Pepper Jackie says of the Chicoli card, the tree limbs look like it could be wings. Stunning card. Or spider legs in terms of movement. They do kind of look like they're flailing around a little bit too. That's another nice thing about cards and art. You see things one time, and then the next time you look at it, you see new things or different things you didn't notice the first time. I think that's all part of reading. How long have you been reading tarot? How did you get into it? I got my first tarot deck probably in the late 70s or early 80s. It was an RWS, and I had trouble with it because of the little white book. The little white book completely confounded and confused me. I didn't understand it all. I thought, I'm doing it all wrong because these images make no sense with these key phrases or whatever. And about every half dozen years, I thought, well, maybe I'll go give it another shot. And I kept getting stumbled by that Arthur Waite little white book. And then at some point, I started looking at information online about reading or learning the tarot. And a lot of people were saying there's no right way or wrong way to read tarot, and it's all intuitive and this, that, and the other thing. And I thought, well, maybe I'm being too fussy and too tight on the way tarot is meant to be done. And even in Arthur Waite's little white book, I think somewhere near the beginning, he says something to the effect of tarot is all about the images or all about the symbols. I thought, okay, well, I was trained as an artist, so I can look at symbols. We live in a world full of symbols. You get to a corner and there's a stop sign. You identify with the message on the stop sign. You see red and that means stop. So there are certain elements. This just occurred to me. Stop signs are octagonal. So that flat sides are in all directions around it, which would kind of say, look around you and don't move. There could be something coming from any direction. So there you go. There's an idea for a symbol. And so anyway, I just basically threw the little white book aside and started to find my way by just looking at the images and what they mean to me. And then I started finding things on YouTube and learning how other people read cards and sharing with other people what they see in cards, which would be a good segue for something I want to discuss with you. I want to do an Empress versus the Star card, which I've been thinking about lately. So yeah, I haven't actually been collecting or reading until fairly recently, the last 6-7 years, something like that, is when I started collecting more decks. And I had initially, the one RWS deck. And then I started seeing other decks through reviews online that I liked. And then I was encouraged to start my own channel. And the first year I had my channel, I bought a lot of decks because I felt I was doing walkthroughs as a kind of a shopping service. And I thought, I really have to have a lot of new decks to have new content for my channel, and that got a little bit out of control. So I've gotten much fussier with that now and not buying. I'm being much more selective about what I buy. And so I'm not doing as many walkthroughs, and I'm also not doing scheduled videos so much. If I get a new deck and I'm passionate about it, I'll do a walkthrough. If I just feel like I want to spend some time with the community, I'll go live and won't schedule it anymore. The most fun, I think, though, is when I have an interview or a dialogue with a friend and we cover a number of topics and share the time online. Condensed, reduction, distilled. Oh, yeah, with my reading. No, it's not brulee. I think it's reduction. Yeah. Pepper Jackie says to simmer away and make thick. Michelle says, I love how reading cards calls you back even if you put it down for a time. Cards do call you back. Discovered tarot tubes, started buying lots of tarot books and a few decks. Have been watching loads of tarot tube for 12 months. More study needed with tools. Well, I think tarot is one of those things that's really lifelong study. And I mean, some people just buy a deck and they just go by the book. And if they're just doing it for themselves, that's fine. I wouldn't advise anybody to read that way for people. I just don't feel like there's enough information there. But I think the more you read, the more you uncover or discover. There does seem a certain degree of saturation, though, with the books. There's a lot of repetition because seem to be certain basics. That's another thing. It's like I look at symbols and I look at the way I read a symbol, but then I kind of look for a common denominator with other people, like how they interpret a symbol. And I feel like if 80% of the population look at a symbol and get a certain meaning from it, then that's probably the way I'm going to go if I'm going to read for other people, because they're going to see the same thing. On the other hand, there are more subtle leanings or turnings with cards. And I think it's interesting when somebody spots something that you hadn't spotted, or even over time, you look at a card, you draw a card out, and at that particular moment, in that particular reading for that particular person, you see something maybe even in the background of a card you hadn't noticed before. And I think that's kind of your subconscious pulling something out, or something jumping out of the card into your subconscious. And that's really interesting. I used to worry a lot about, how do I know if I got the right card to read from for somebody? And I was really worried about it because I used to go through all these rituals. I'd shuffle and shuffle and shuffle. Sometimes I'd shuffle until a card jumped out of the deck and I looked at that as a sign. That's the one. Or sometimes I would tap 3 times on a deck like, Pixie, I'm here, please help me. I'd shuffle and shuffle and shuffle until somehow I got a message in my head, or I felt like, okay, this is right to stop now. And then sometimes I felt almost like I didn't shuffle enough, and it's like, am I really getting the right card? Should I shuffle more, or is this okay? And I remember in a live with Kelly of Truth and Story, and I asked her about this, how do you know when you got the right card if you've shuffled enough? And she said something I found very profound. She said, every card in the deck has something to say about the situation you're inquiring about, which, almost makes you think, okay, I don't even need to shuffle, I'll just pull any card, which you could do. I think there is a sort of a ritual aspect about shuffling, but I think it really is true. I sometimes as an exercise, I'll just sit by myself and I'll think, what's the situation I'm inquiring about? And I just start pulling card and then the next card and the next card. And each one I'll answer my question with that card. What does that card have to say about what I'm trying to find out? Michelle says, so very true. I think each reading's different. Sometimes a card should mean one thing for a reading and ends up, it resonates with the person asking the question. Oh, it jumped. and means something different for another reading. Sometimes a message might not make sense to you, but then when you say something, it ends up resonating with the person asking the question. Kaz says, maybe shuffling is tuning the reader in rather than placing a card in the right position. Could be. Kaz is an intuitive reader, but interested in the collective knowledge. I tend to be an intuitive reader. I don't rely much on spreads. I know a lot of people are very fastidious about spreads. And my whole tarot reading world was changed. If any of you have Amazon Prime Video, check out or rent or stream Tarology. It's a movie about Enrique Enriquez, and it blew my mind. It blew my whole tarot world wide open. I think there's a lot of similarities there to this tarot creator and reader Yoav Bendov, and they both do sort of open style readings. And it's like, what do you see, and what are the actions in the cards that you see? Don't go by the book definitions. Like, what card is facing another card? Are they engaging, or is one looking at the back of another person? What does that say? Two people are facing. Are they coming together? If they're facing away, are they moving apart, away from each other? What are the hand gestures doing in the cards? Are they carrying things? Are they wielding weapons? What are they doing? A lot of it is in movement and activity. That's what I love about scenic cards, that it's actions, and I read the actions more than I read things like gender or social position or race or age or body type. A lot of people identify with those things. I feel like our souls don't have any of those things, but do have a sort of a commonality. So as characters, we do things, we have actions. And so I look at the action in the card. I also tend not to be strict about past being on the left and future being on the right. Some people say, from a metaphysical point of view, there's no such thing as time. There is no past, there is no future. It's all in the present. Or there is a time as a dimension or something. I don't know. In terms of the cosmos, time seems kind of amorphous. So I don't adhere strictly to time in terms of direction of the cards, but just kind of go with which cards feel like they relate to the situation more more currently than previously, or something not yet known might be considered future. Um, I would like to do a reading. If anybody has a question, put it in caps, and at some point I will get to it and we can explore that together. But I wanted to talk to you. I've been lately thinking about a couple cards that I still have trouble with. The star and the moon cards still give me pause to think about them. And I was recently looking at the star card, and I the meanings that I've been given in books for the star card about hope. It's like, well, okay. Lots of times I go by um, uh, phrases, old sayings and things like, when you wish upon a star. Okay, I see a big star. I think when you wish upon a star. But what the character's doing seems separate from wishing on a star. So I don't originally see hope in this card. I mean, that is an element of the card, but the activity is this nude person pouring water into water and onto dry land. Now, I have to look at that, and I see a nurturing aspect of that, the idea of feeding water to the water and to the land, which makes me think of the Empress, because the Empress has always been presented as a nurturing card. So now I'm trying to think, how do the Empress and the star relate? What do they have in common, and how are they different? The Empress to me seems, then she's often depicted as a pregnant mother type. She's sort of the earth mother, but she's also like at ease on a throne. It's a very different feel. She's almost inactive while things around her are growing. And she's sort of a symbol of growth and nurturing. Whereas the star is someone without clothes, which makes them, in my mind, vulnerable. There's a vulnerability about the star character. And they're expressing nurturing or sharing to me by the action of pouring out water from a jug. Now, usually if you do that, something is receiving the water, like a bowl or a cup, or poured into someone's mouth. Here it's going on to the land and into the water, which is a little bit of a confusing message. But we're just on the land as like the dry land, and the plants need the water to grow. Water going into water, I never know quite how to read. It's almost like, well, maybe I appreciate the land, but the water needs some appreciation too. But does the water get appreciation by pouring water back into the water? Is it a way of saying thank you to the water? You get these eddying, rippling effects from the water hitting the water, which is interesting. If you have an action, the energy radiates outward, so that could signify that everything we do has a ripple effect. I'm still not clear on the two different pictures of water, though, and how they differentiate what they mean. I also like the idea of 1 foot on land and 1 foot in the water, which we also have, I believe, in the Temperance card. And here it's like the foot, when I see a foot in water, it's almost like getting your toe wet, like participating in something, taking on an action for the first time or something new, trying something out. We also have her taking a knee, and I'm not sure how to read that. Sometimes it's honoring something to take a knee. So I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in this card. I just don't quite know what to do with. We've got a bird in the tree, which is sort of a witness. The wings are extended as if it's just landed or about to take off. We have all the rays coming out from all these stars. I'm seeing that now as more and more of an image, the radiant energy from the ripples in the water and the light in the stars. Now, not sure about the stripped away clothing, the idea of being as naked as you were born, being vulnerable, being as natural in the world as water, earth, plants, stars. No, I'm starting to appreciate this card more than I did just by sounding out all these ideas. And it seems a very active participatory card as opposed to the Empress, who's basically just sitting on a throne, kind of confronting us, maybe confronting us to get involved with the land. Like, I've got my scepter up and my crown on my head. Oh, she's got stars too. So maybe she's relating to this other one also by saying, you can't just sit in luxury. You need to radiate your energy outward. You need to blanket the land with plants on her robe. You need to procreate or plant seeds and tend your garden. This could also be tending garden with this picture over here. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Let me scroll down a little bit and see if anybody has anything to say. Pepper Jackie's interested in making up her own spreads in hopes to reflect the situation. It's fun, too, to see how moving around variables can be interpreted. Yeah. And even when I do 3-card spreads, it's usually the answer is in the 3 for me. Sometimes they don't make sense or I'm not quite clear on it. Usually it's the card on the right is sort of like future or the final element of the spread for me. So it's like I say there's no direction, but often the one on the right is where the rest of them seem to be leading. And sometimes it's a card that seems to resolve the situation. And other times it feels like, no, there are more steps than this. And I'm not clear what they are. So then I pull another card. Sometimes I lay it across the 3rd card at an angle to sort of indicate in my head, this is not part of the spread, but it's shifting. It's a direction that things are moving in. You might want to consider this element with regards to the next step of these 3. And sometimes that 4th card doesn't do it. And I'll keep adding cards until I find a card that feels like, okay, now we're at a place of resolution. And if you pulled 5 or 7 additional cards, there's meaning in that too. For me, it's like, okay, there's a resolution to the situation, but it's not immediate. It's 7 cards down the road. So there's pardon me, I'm gassy tonight. There's a number of things that you need to do before this situation is resolved. Pepper Jackie says, I'm interested in making my, I said that already. Michelle says, I personally believe it depends on your intentions, if that makes sense. Once you build a relationship with your deck, then it's just like a natural flow. Taking into consideration each card. To me, the star card, if it's a question, should I do this? The answer is yes. Or also, it's very similar to temperance because you can see she is tempering water, also balance. Look at her feet. Yeah, the Empress is like anything, fertility, anything you birth, not just life, but anything you create. It's true. If you have a plan or an opportunity that you want to develop, the Empress would be a good indicator that you can birth that activity. You can make things happen. So that for me is kind of like the magician too, in a way, the Empress. So then you pair the Empress and the magician and see about the differences there. Pepper Jackie, the star card right now to me calls for rebirth. Balance out. Looks like she's standing on water with the other foot. Stars may be spirits. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I always think of the afterlife as light energy. That's my personal belief. I'm actually looking forward to when I die. I mean, well, not the actual moment of death, but I don't believe in, dancing around on a cloud playing a harp. I tend to believe that we're like the stars out there, that we're pinpoints of light in a sort of a cosmic slipstream, like a school of fish out there spreading energy that is positive energy to help create good things. Xantha Leaf, hello and welcome. A little late to the live. It feels synchronous to see the star card lately. For me, I need all the celestial help I can get at this time. Michelle, I always do 3-card spreads unless I feel like another card is needed, but everyone reads different. Totally depends on how you read naturally. You have to trust in your intuition. Would anybody like a little reading? Because I really would like to experiment and share this with you, and I'll do my viewpoint of it, and then I would like to see how people in the chat view the cards. So it'll be a kind of a collaboration. The other thing I was looking at the other night was comfort decks. I think I mentioned earlier, I have several stacks of trays on the side of my bed with different decks on them. And the top tray has my most used decks, or the ones I'm the most comfortable with. And these are comfort in terms of the imagery and readability, but also the deck itself, a tactile feel. And one of them for me, I'm finding I'm sort of banging my own drum too much lately already, but this is a deck that I created. It's called the Open Face Tarot, and it's a majors only deck. It's the first deck I created. I have it in plastic and regular cardstock and 2 different sizes, but the one that I really love and am most comfortable with is the mini-sized cardstock one. They're available on makeplayingcards.com, and this one's the cheapest deck you'll probably find on that site. It was about $8. The prices have gone up now. I think it's $9 something. But it's physically comfortable for me. The cardstock and the size, I actually like small cards. This is sort of playing card size, or maybe just a little smaller. Not fond of the really teeny weeny mini ones. This is a comfortable size to shuffle. and just has a really nice texture and feel to the cards, almost slightly waxy or something. And because the deck sort of came spontaneously from my subconscious, I'm very comfortable with it. I feel like it's part of me somehow. I actually drew these cards in 4 hours on one day when I was inspired after procrastinating for about a year and a half. And I want to create a deck. I want to do a deck. And I kept putting it off because 78 cards was just too overwhelming. And I thought, well, you've got to start somewhere. So I started just like scribbling out these simplistic images over one Sunday morning into the afternoon, and I got the basic sketches done in 4 hours of the 22 cards. And then I spent the rest of the day sort of like tweaking the cards into the template online and adjusting the color just slightly. And so it's like a sepia tone line work on a kind of a ivory colored card. I've said this before too. They almost remind me of like hotel room bar soap. Those little soaps you get in hotels, which I guess psychologically adds another level of comfort to it. Usually if you're in a hotel room, you're on vacation having a good time. So a little bar of soap from the hotel is kind of a door prize, a reminder of the time you had on your vacation. So anyway, yeah, I find this deck really comforting, and I find that I can get answers to anything from a majors only deck. I don't really need the minors. All the minors can be subsumed into the majors if you think about it. That's another exercise you can do. Lay out a majors only deck, or no, lay out the majors from a full deck, and then play solitaire underneath. Go through the minors one at a time and see which of those majors could be read by the meaning of the minor. It could be somewhere in that major. And you might find that sometimes a minor has meaning that is incorporated in more than one major card, or you feel closer one time you play than another time that it's this major rather than that major, or maybe it's two majors, two meanings. So I think that's kind of a fun sort of game you can play. That's a learning thing about majors only decks. Also, creating your own deck. I encourage everyone to create your own deck. And I kind of got that idea from the Order of the Golden Dawn, which said, that all the students of the order were assigned basically homework that they should create their own tarot deck. And you really learn a lot about tarot just through the creation process of picking certain images or ideas to communicate. I guess a lot of people do that with oracle decks more so than tarot, but I highly recommend it. Oh, Kaz has a question for the tarot. What does the tarot have to say about tarot tube? Interesting. Well, I'm going to try that one with my own majors only deck first. And then I'm going to give the RWS a shot at it. So, what does the tarot have to say about tarot tube? I have some cards laid out on a tray, and I don't want to mentally be distracted by them, so I'm going to flip them over so I don't see those images. Oh, it's funny. Okay. What I didn't tell you is in my own deck, I created an additional card, which is the design from the back of the card, the open face figure. You can use the deck without that card, or you can add it in. I left it in and I shuffled, and that's my center card of my 3-card spread. And this card to me, in the version of the deck that has labels on it, this version doesn't, is a question mark. So for me, this is like the open face, the questioning face, the being in wonder and awe of what is out there around you. So that's the central figure. I think that figure relates to both tarot and tarot tube in terms of being inquisitive. So I think tarot would say probably about this card that both are good. The point is to be inquisitive about looking into tarot, whether you do it with cards or whether you do it online. I would expect it probably also expands out to books as well, reading about tarot. Now, the first card in the 3-card spread is my Chariot card. The Chariot card seems to indicate it could go either way. But in a progression, we have, well, there's value in both. You need to choose which of the two you want to pursue. And then we have that open face looking forward. Okay. And then my third card is the Emperor. The Emperor to me is usually a stodgy sort of person. And for me, the Emperor is summed up in his throne. He never leaves his throne. He's not really open. Look at the body language. His legs are crossed. And yet he's holding up his scepter. It's sort of like he's set in his ways. He's not apt to change his mind. He's looking back at the other 2 cards because he's the 3rd card. And, I just got a new, where is it? I got a new card holder recently. If I can find it, I can show you these better all together. Here we go. Got this on Amazon. Doesn't hold a very large spread, but so here we have the spread for this question. What does the tarot have to say about tarot tube? So for me, it's the tarot reader trying to decide how they feel about it, which way to go, or tarot itself relating to the direction that the reader will go. And there's this notion of, it's so hard to do this backwards. There's this notion that tarot as a system is kind of set in its way and probably prefers that you read tarot cards than that you study through tarot tube. But because of the history and tradition of tarot tube is a fairly new thing. So somebody that's set in their ways is probably not as supportive of venturing into new ways of dealing with or looking at the cards. And so, there's history behind the tarot, but still they're looking and considering these thoughts. So I wouldn't say this is a definitive tarot likes tarot tube or tarot doesn't like tarot tube, but it seems to be open to listening about it, even though there's a whole lengthy history to uh, reading with tarot. Michelle says, could you please tell me your deck name again? It's called the Open Face Tarot. And if you go through my channel, you go far enough down, say a year or a little more, you can see me do a walkthrough of it, so you can see all the images. And there's another one where I do an online, like I didn't do a booklet with it, but I did a virtual booklet that I printed as a PDF that I could send you if you want to, or just watch that video, because I go through every card and tell you what I see or read in the meaning of that card. And as that's a very old video, I have come across new meanings and new ideas the longer I've used my own deck. And that's what I think is interesting about creating your deck, because even though you fully intend to put all your ideas into the imagery in the cards, you can find after the fact, oh, something got in there that I didn't even plan to put in there. And you can find new things in the card. And that's a really joy. That's joy. You know, it's like Christmas morning or something, to look at your art and find new things in there. And I love it actually when I share my deck with others and they find things in there that I'd never noticed before. So that's really really cool. I'm gonna, sometimes what I'll do, and people say don't use deck after deck after deck with the same question. You know, you got, if you don't like the answer you got, don't do another deck and read the same question again. But I have a little different approach. It's not that I'm unhappy with the reading, but what I like to do is I almost feel like a different deck. Well, I know from the shuffle it's going to give me different cards, but also from the artwork, it's going to give me another, let's say, another point of view. So not that one is right or wrong or better than the other, but hey, Candy. And but yeah, let's look at the RWS and see what it says. So just shuffle these a little bit, a little bit. What does the tarot have to say about Tarot Tube? My hands feel sticky. I think I'm sweating or something. It is warm in here without my fans and air conditioner. Maybe I should put them back on. I'm just afraid one of the fans, when I had it running, it didn't sound noisy here, but when I listened back in a video after the fact, the condenser mic in the computer picked up a lot of noise from it, just from the wind blowing against the mic that wasn't audible in my room. So maybe I won't stay on too much longer anyway. I really need to get up and wash my hands rather than just using a damp towelette. What does the tarot have to say about Tarot Tube? And some might say, well, what does Pixie have to say if I'm using her deck? Or how does Pixie filter what I'm trying to get from her deck by using her images? Well, the center card in this spread is the Lovers, which to me says a partnership. There's a partnership between tarot and Tarot Tube. And I think probably it's a very good partnership, because without Tarot Tube, a lot of people wouldn't know about tarot even. So it's spreading information. But having said that, it can spread good information, bad information. There are good decks out there, less good. Shouldn't say good. Beneficial, maybe. Some are more beneficial to some people than others. So there's that. Now, the first card in the three, ahead of the Lovers, is the Ace of Swords. And that's sort of like taking the crown, communicating, very decisive communication, starting out communication. So whether you start by watching TarotTube or you start by looking at cards, both of them are making a start. And I would say that that's the Lovers is a good thing. For either one, it's a good start. The third card is the Knight of Wands. And that usually is something you're passionate about. And a knight is, driven. So your passions are being driven as far as tarot goes, regardless of whether you look at decks or look at TarotTube. So make a start either way. Say you're new, say you don't know anything about tarot. Maybe this video will either lead you to buy this deck or lead you to other tarot channels to learn more about tarot, to investigate tarot. So yeah, I think this is probably a pretty good read for this question. That the Ace of Swords will have you investigating intellectually, because swords are all about thoughts and speech. The Lovers is a kind of a companionship, a partnership. So partnership between you and tarot. And the Knight of Wands is that passion to learn, to investigate, to move forward, and working with tarot. So that's what that says to me. If any of you have any additional thoughts you'd like to pop in there about the cards, let me know. Kaz says definitely turn on the fan. I'd actually rather turn on the AC, but I think this is going to be too loud. It's sort of a dull roar, but if it affects the microphone too much. If you can't hear me now, give a shout out in the chat and I'll figure something else out. Candy says, oh, I love that, but I don't know if she's referring to the reading or something somebody else said in the chat. Oh, Candy says it sounds fine. I usually wear a t-shirt. I threw this on, which is way too heavy, but I don't have any shirt on underneath, so I can't exactly strip it off. I don't think you want to see me sitting here naked. Lovers saying embrace to me for this reading. Well, Kaz, when you say embrace, with regards to, you're saying tarot embraces TarotTube? Is that what you mean by embrace? Michelle's glad she tuned in. She's learned new things tonight. Thank you. Thank you. And that's why I like to have interactions with people in the chat and to get their views on things, because I learn things too. And when I have guests on, then also I can learn new things. Um, Candy loves the fact that the Lover's card came out. Kaz, interpret as tarot is saying that tarot tube gives us what we take from it. Let me get a third point of view. This will be a little challenging, maybe, because I'm going to go to the Golden Tarot, and I don't use this one very often. So you may find it a little bit harder to read. Santa Leaf, reading of the tarot has been more insightful at a deeper level within the last few days. Lovers, for me, also talks about curating your tarot tube as it's about choices. Tarot tube, same as tarot, it gives what you get, take, just like life. There are different areas of tarot tube, and we find different people and aspects. I didn't pull a fourth card, which I could have, which might have given me a little bit more. Maybe I should do that. Now I don't know if it's too far removed from my reading. Let's see if my cards are still in order here. They are. So had I pulled a fourth card after the Emperor, it would have been the World card. And the World card for me is all encompassing. So, I mean, it's tarot cards and tarot tube. They're both part of something bigger, something, decks and information from decks and tarot tube will go out into the world. And for me, this card is somebody having fun, marching to their own drum with the little drumsticks in the middle of a drum head, jumping through hoops, going out to play out into the world, making a big circle of things. Experience starts and ends. It doesn't really end. It continues in a circle. You need to move out of where you are into a larger space. So I would say that both tarot and tarot tube are things that Emperor might want to get off his throne and explore to a wider degree. I would say that they're a pretty good partnership, those two. Now, it's so funny. Isn't it funny when you consult a different deck and you get the same or similar cards? I mean, that really is kind of cosmically reinforcing the message. On this one, my central card, central to the question, was my fourth follow-up card, the World. The first card was Queen of Coins, which sort of, I would say the coins are more cards than tarot tube, because cards are physical objects, material objects. And you can collect cards and you can collect tarot tube videos, but that doesn't seem like earth energy to me. The Queen of Coins is, for me, coming from the perspective of handling tarot cards. The World is investigation on to a wider degree. Also, though, in this World card, we have a central figure surrounded by many other figures, which sounds to me very much like Tarot Tube. You know, there's somebody here expressing themselves, blessed by angels above, in terms of spreading information that others in the community can learn from or can take to heart. And the third one, I have the Emperor again. That's funny, the World and the Emperor. I mean, you know, who'd have thunk it? You know, when you go to shuffle and you draw from a different deck, this one has 78 cards. Out of 78 cards, we got 2 cards that we got in the previous spread for the same question. So here, this time we have the Emperor looking forward. So I would say, even during the course of our reading, the Emperor is less staid in his position and more open to the idea of exploring with other people via many decks and many opinions on Tarot Tube. Candy says, make sure you take your insights into the real world. Make sure you turn off the screen and live tarot and live tarot and its insights. Queen of Coins would say that too, and the world together. The Emperor, use it to create your world, not just to watch. Well, Candy, you came in, I think, after I discussed. Oh no, you said you were listening, so you know my thoughts on the Emperor. For me, the Emperor is all about the throne and sitting there. It's a very stubborn card for me. But in this one, he's at peace with these animals, and it seems less stubborn and more resting, but looking up and out with a certain degree of insight. Maybe he has new insight about the idea of embracing or being open to Tarot Tube. Double, the World and the Emperor. Yeah. He could be designating, says Candy. Or delegating, sorry. Well, and it's also a bit of a circle. If he's delegating to tarot tubers to spread the word about tarot, then that goes back to the idea of tarot as an earth object, a collectible object. So there's this kind of work together quality, a full circle, kind of like, do tarot cards make you watch Tarot Tube? Does Tarot Tube make you buy tarot cards? There's sort of a circle there. Candy has the Emperor as a birth card? Huh, interesting. Oops. Well, I think we got what we needed out of that reading. Is there anybody else that has something that they would like an answer to in a reading, or some question they might like to discuss. I could try and challenge myself again a little more with that Nicoletta Ciccoli. It's a tougher deck for me. Candy, I'm not sure what you mean I do. And Xantha do too. What oh, using multiple decks for this question. It's interesting. Yeah. Just got to terms with shaping my own life here. Oh, I had another idea that I might try. If we take a lot of people lately are pairing decks. What they usually do is they pull an oracle card and pair it with a spread. Now, I've been thinking lately about doing a 3-card spread with one deck and then underneath pairing those 3 cards with a second deck. What do you think of that idea? That makes me afraid to use the Ciccoli because that's the one I have trouble with. I think it might be easier with this new idea for me to try something I'm more familiar with. Let me put Nicoletta down for a minute. I'm going to try it with the 2 decks we just did. So what question could we ask to see answered by 2 decks and how the answers relate from one deck to the other? I'm going to use my deck again for one of them because it'll be interesting to me to see how Pamela Coleman Smith responds to my Majors Only deck. Does anybody have a question that we can use, a sample question? Anybody have something on their mind? Okay, let me just throw this one out then. Let's say, like I said, I don't usually do these middle of the night things, but I'm often inspired in the middle of the night to go online. So how does the tarot feel? I don't want to put it in a yes or no question, but how does the tarot feel about me more routinely doing middle of the night lives? Now, it's going to mean that people abroad may have a better ability to join me because there's at least 5 hours ahead of me. For instance, it's 4:30 here now, which means I think it's at 9:30 there. And that's going to be a problem for people in the States unless they're also insomniacs or night people. But let's see how it feels about me doing these during these peculiar hours. Oh, maybe not good. I got the Tower. I got the Moon. I got Justice. So Tower for me, that's my central issue, my center card. The unexpected will happen if I go on in the middle of the night. And that's probably particularly if I don't announce it, like if I just start up a routine and people don't know I'm on there until they find me. Just the nature of their finding me is a Tower moment. It's sort of like an unexpected surprise, perhaps, that some may have to deal with. Some people don't like not knowing when there's going to be a live, so they'd prefer a schedule. It also will potentially bring in new personalities, maybe even some trolls could be a bad thing. Don't know. And then the first card is the moon, which, how appropriate is the moon card for going on in the middle of the night? For me, I'm still having a little trouble reading the moon. I see it two sides of our nature, the wild, instinctual side versus the domestic, more reasoned, mindful side. Both going down a path. This makes perfect sense for middle of the night readings. Follow your instinct down the path in the middle of the night. Go with your instinct, but at the same time use your considered skills in terms of the topics you present. Then the third card we have is the Justice card. And I may have the only Justice card in tarot that is a walking justice. Usually they're either standing or sitting. But it's important here that I'm weighing out the idea. And in weighing out the idea, I would say need to be fair. I need to remain from a neutral position in considering both sides. I need to be open to the possibility of unpredictable things happening and trying not to control them so they don't happen. So I need to be open to spontaneity. What do you make of that? Do the cards want us to go to bed at regular hours? Love the reference of walking justice. I saw it walking towards truth. Well, here's a case, again, where I'm going to see what it's walking towards by drawing the next card. Oh, it's walking towards the Empress. For me, the Empress, of course, as a lot of other people have said, is a nurturing card. So it seems to be encouraging me to do these late night things if I can be nurturing about it. If by doing them, I birth or build something that's of some benefit to others as a channel. What do you think? Santa, I can understand a walking justice card. I walk a lot when trying to make difficult decisions. Kaz says spontaneity. All right, let's see what Pixie says. Shift some cards here because they're sliding everywhere. Question up there. Just do. Just a comment. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to do our second row with different cards to see how they interact. Uh-huh. Hmm. Well, my central card, center of the issue on this layer, is the Three of Pentacles. I would say a late night session with all of you is a collaboration towards building something. And generally, that's a good thing. I'm coming from a position in the Nine of Cups of sort of like, I have everything I need. Do I need more? I'm satisfied with the way things have been going. But look at all those cups. There are cups to share. Maybe that's good for middle of the night collaborations, to share things with others. Now, the third card is the Four of Cups. 4 down from 10. It's less cups. And yet I seem to be sort of stuck on those 3 and not considering additional cups being added. So for me, I have now to think about going live in the middle of the night by adding that 4th cup to my view. More to think about, more to share, more to consider, more feelings to sort through via the cards with other people. Candy says she loves the idea of late night sessions. Only problem is, Candy, there what's late night for me isn't late night for you. Oh, bye, Candy. Michelle was thinking spontaneity too. So this is a little harder to do, but let me think about the 2 different readings. So the first card in the second row was the 9 of Cups versus the Moon card in the row above it. So let me put them side by side, that'll be easier. I think my impulse to that is, in handling midnight sessions and balancing my intuition with my reason, I will have a lot of cups to share with people that happen to tune in. The second card is the Tower. The Tower and the 3 of Pentacles. So I'm going to say, in building something with others, in collaborating via late night sessions, midnight sessions, expect the unexpected. And I think particularly if I don't have plans ahead of time to cover certain topics or just do readings, there will definitely be unexpected things happening. I do like the idea of collaborating, though. I do like the idea that if I start doing readings in the middle of the night, the people that I read for will collaborate with me. I don't want it to be an all, people asking for readings and being just receptive. I like the idea of some kind of exchange of ideas. And that too can be a Tower moment, because you never know what somebody might say. You have to be prepared for all possibilities when you're involved in collaborating. Now, the third card is Justice and the Four of Cups. So I would say accept the fourth cup, accept those possibilities of interacting with others in a very fair, diplomatic, and even-handed manner. And both of us can come together in a way that will resolve issues or assist in clarifying issues. So I think that's pretty good. Let me grab a fourth card for fourth card for the second row is the Eight of Pentacles, which, like the Three of Pentacles, involves work. Now, we don't know in this one if he's working alone or working with others. Looks to me like I will be doing the greater part of the work in a midnight session. But I still have that Three of Pentacles where I'm working with others. So I think these are all good things. These are all sort of positive in terms of telling me, yeah, maybe you should start doing some late night sessions. Michelle says also Tower can be something has to end for a new beginning. Maybe your thought of it to be a bad idea needs it to end for you to have a thought of it being a good idea. Radha says Tower means building a new base. That's interesting. I definitely will be building a new base in the middle of the night because most of my things are during the day to completely different audiences. Maybe it is time for me to spread out to more people. So this says something to be said for spontaneity. Happy for these night readings, Robin. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Michelle, personally, I'm thrilled to see someone on late night. I'm happy to see you on now. Thank you. Katz, being your idea, you will be the one to kick it off. But, Eight of Pentacles. But we'll buy in as it goes along. Growth. Three of Coins. No, Three of Cups. Sorry. Three of Cups? I think you mean three of... Not sure what you mean. I guess you're saying Three of Coins instead of Three of Pentacles. Okay. Radha wanted some guidance if you have time. We'll give it a shot. What do you want to know, Radha? I should inform you that this is interactive, and I generally I consider this more as guidance than prediction. I don't have any pretense of knowing anything cosmically. I just read what I read in the cards, and I confer with the person wanting the reading to see if it helps. Okay. Okay. Just found your page. I'm a healthcare worker who's been out of work for almost 2 months due to COVID complicating another illness. Don't have $50 to pay my water bill. Definitely could use help. Okay, I can't tell if you're asking for monetary help or if you're asking for a reading. If you want monetary help, I can't do anything there. Maybe somebody else in the chat is willing, but otherwise, Radha, my connection with my friend, we had a misunderstanding. Will we reconcile? Well, my initial impulse reaction to that is don't remain passive. If you want to reconcile, take part in the reconciliation. Don't just wait for it to spring out of the cosmos. It's less likely to happen that way, but we'll see what the cards have to say. And I don't know any more about your misunderstanding. Those details, if you care to share, would be helpful, but we'll see. So I have the Two of Cups, which is an emotional companionship or emotional friendship. They are looking at each other in a very serious sort of manner. There's about to be a toast there, but one is either offering the other a cup or reaching for their cup. There's a bit of a twist on that caduceus there. Could be a twist in the situation or the relationship. There's a lion above, which is, to me, lions are sort of like powerful, sometimes stubborn or aggressive animals. And this one has wings. So I would say flight, overwatching or overseeing the situation, has an element of aggression or dissatisfaction or something. It's a Knight of Swords at the beginning of the spread. That indicates to me very, I don't want to say aggressive action, but aggressive is not quite the right word. Charging into the situation, and swords are communication. So I don't know whether this is referring to some communication that created the problem. Somebody came in too strong, too swiftly, or if there's the notion that you want to resolve the situation by somebody, aggressively coming in with communicating about it. I would say either way, it's probably not a good idea. The third card is the Three of Swords, which is usually seen as heartbreak. I see it as no pain, no gain. You learn through suffering. So there's some element in this interaction that is problematic, is troubling. It involves the communication, and this may require additional communication, which is painful, but it needs to go through that in order to be resolved. So unless I get more information there, this indicates to me that communication needs to happen. Don't be too heavy-handed with it. Be diplomatic with it, and there may be some pain involved in how the communication is received, but it needs to happen for both sides to learn and to advance. And once the swords are dealt with and removed from the heart, that pairing, that comfort level can more readily be repaired. That's what these cards say to me. Go, let's see. Michelle says, everyone has free will. The cards can say one thing, but it's up to us to make decisions in our own life. Yeah. Radha says, I have tried reaching out to my friend telepathically. You might need to do it a little more earthwise. Telepathically is one way, but that's may or may not work out for you. Might be better to give them a phone call, send them a card, a text, visit them. Kaz says for entertainment purposes only. Yes. Hello, Jezebel. Rada says there was miscommunication in the past. Well, I found the only way to get beyond miscommunication is to communicate. And I really am not feeling like sending it out telepathically is going to get you there. It's a whole different level of communication that is, let me put it this way. If you're sending out a message to this other person telepathically, what message are you receiving back telepathically? If you're not receiving any, then there's no connection there. You might need to take a different approach. The situation will get better in the future, ? I have their number. I can't tell you that. I don't predict. I can advise or suggest. I would say from this reading, I don't know whether I would just phone them out of the blue. You might send them a text. Be careful about the way you word the text, though. Don't make it seem too confronting. Make it seem compassionate so that you're trying to get answers, but don't put pressure on them. I don't put them on the spot. Santa says, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for sticking your neck out on your views in the tarot community. I respect your time, sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you. Radha, will my friend reach out to me? Well, my approach to the cards is about you taking action, not about somebody else taking action. They're not here for me to read for or to talk to. So the best first steps are energy coming from you. I can't predict whether somebody is going to reach out to you. I usually find that things don't happen unless you make them happen. I mean, they sometimes happen, but very rarely. That's a tower moment. That's very unpredictable. And I'm not a psychic. Jezebel says an old-fashioned letter works better than telepathy 9.9 times out of 10. I agree. If you have their address, I think a letter is better than a text. It's lengthier, it's more personal, you've taken time to handwrite it out, and you can pause and look at it longer before pressing a send button to make sure you're not being rash, to make sure you're communicating clearly your thoughts and feelings. You moved back home, don't have their number. Oh. So you have no way of reaching this person. Then I don't know what to tell you. If you can't reach them through friends or online, you don't have their email, you don't have any of that, I think, oh, you said you have their email, but you're scared. Have you ever sent them email before? If this is a first-time email, it might feel a little confrontational, but you might do that. I would say if you're sending an email or a text, though, Um, compose it well, compose it like a letter, think about it, reflect on it, put it in your draft folder. Don't send it for a day or more. Go back and review it. Think if you still feel the same way or you want to modify what you're saying. Don't be rash in what you say. Have it be well considered, well thought out. And again, don't be confrontational. You're trying to get information that you don't know whether they will reply back. Well, there's only one way to find out. That's another thing you have to take into account. If you're actively taking part in resuming this, you have to remain open to the possibility that it'll all go south. So you can only do what you can do. You can try your best, but, we'll see. Now, let me scroll back here. Trying to find the other. Okay. 07 celebrity. This is another same kind of question. I don't like these kind of questions. And I think you can see why for the reason of the answer that I gave to the previous one. So often I see, and this is one of the things that keeps me from wanting to do read-ems from people that I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know the people. I don't know the degree to which they are willing to take part in changing their situation. And so often they feel like, they seem to come across like the querent wants all goodwill and good luck to fall out of the sky into their lap without putting in any work. Sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's kind of the way I feel about it. I'll see, what the cards have to say, and they may give you some guidance, but ultimately, it's not about the other person. It's about you. You have to put in the work to get the result. So, someone out of your life since high school, what do they think of you? They're throwing darts at you. No, I don't know. I mean, this is a lot of activity going on. I don't know what kind of activity. Let me pull the other two cards. Okay. Well, first we've got 10 of Cups, which looks to me, I don't know, like maybe you had a happy situation together back in high school. It looks like things might have been rosy back then, which is possibly or probably why you're asking about them now. All these flying wands, stuff happens. Between now and then, a lot of stuff happened. May have had nothing to do with your relationship. May have just been work or other things going on in their life or your life. There was a lot of stuff to deal with. Third card, the moon. The moon reflects light from the sun, but not as bright. There's mystery involved here. There's a mystery as to what happened. I don't know. You probably know a little more than I do. The moon is following a path with poor lighting, following a path that requires you perhaps to take a flashlight, to do a little more investigation on your own. The path is separated by a domestic dog and a wild dog. So there's that combination of how do you approach going down the path? Do you go down instinctively? You follow your natural instincts and impulses in terms of contacting this person and seeing what happened? Or do you reason things out? Sit down and really investigate your past, your history, or perhaps find some subtle way to approach them to get the information. All the stuff that happened, like I said, may or may not involve you, so be prepared on any information that you get from them. Might not get to be a pleasant answer, but you might have to ask yourself, is it better to know or better not to know? It seems like something you're dwelling on now. So if you're dwelling on it now all the way since high school and you want to know, what have you got to lose by finding out? If you don't feel like you've lost anything up to now, you won't lose anything if it goes bad. If it goes good, yay, everybody's happy. So that's my thought on that. Sorry, folks, I'm scrolling back to try and catch up without repeating myself by reading stuff I've already read in the chat. Thanks, Michelle. Jezebel says sometimes letting people go is just the best way to heal. Let people move on. If they are meant to be in your life, you will meet again. That goes for both the people I've read for, I think. Celebrity just wants the truth. Put a lot of work and feelings for years. Well, there's one way to find the truth. Open your eyes and look for it. Jezebel, I never really got why people are so invested in what other people might think about them. Just ask them. Dare to be vulnerable. Yeah. '07 Celebrity, tons of stuff happened. That tons of stuff isn't anything you're telling me, so I can't help you with that. But maybe you need to work more on the stuff that happened than where they are now. Lots of mystery. I've tried for years and years. I just don't know what to think. Kaz, sounds like they're taking you for granted and possibly having a different life when not with you. Or not. Kaz, yes, I've always been the one to be open and honest. They've never given me a yes or no. Well, that's a message in itself, isn't it? '07, if it's been years, you're just their safety choice in case everything else fails. Cut the cord. Yeah. Kaz, better to be a priority than a convenience. Sorry for your suffering. I mean that sincerely. Yeah. To them, I've never been a priority. Hi, Richie. I'm doing something different, Richie. Middle of the night readings. It's 5:13 here. And that way, I get to catch my European friends in the morning. Okay, so celebrity, it's something that has caused me great pain. I would say, I think Celebrity, I think you need to deal with your pain. Don't worry about this other person and what they think. The situation is causing you trouble, and the only person you can change is yourself. So you need to find a way to manage this or deal with this discomfort on your part. Whatever they think or do has nothing to do with you, really. It's their action, their activity, their thoughts. How you handle it is you. It's something you have to deal with. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I think it's something that you probably need to work on. I think the signs are telling you that this is not a great pairing. And if it were, it would already have happened. It would already have resolved itself. Jezebel, people should always follow their own heart, but sometimes it just gets too muddy with asking everyone but the person you want to answer. Yeah. Crystal says, listen to your heart. Yeah. I had feelings for them, thought they had feelings for me, never confirmed it, never a yes or no. I don't know if you ever expressed them verbally to this person so that they know or not. Maybe they never knew. Okay. Joan, that's a tough situation. Good to see you too, Richie. Crystal, you're off to work. Oh, you're off work. These late videos are always fun in the weekends for me anyway. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done one in the middle of the night on a Saturday night before. So that could be a thing. Because even if you're working, you're not usually working on the weekend. Usually have time off. If I do the middle of the night, it could be I could get people coming home late from parties that want to sort of ease their way down from their party vibe. I could get people getting up early for Sunday morning activities that want a little intellectual interaction before they go about doing what they're doing. Kaz, enjoying Robin's live. Candy popped in and gave some good advice. Reminders too. It's been fun. '07 Celebrity. Wow, I needed this, guys. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry if I came across harsh. I try not to pull any punches when it comes to this stuff, and I'm glad you got additional information from other people in the chat. So there you go. If you come to me, be ready for a spiritual punch. No soft soaps. Long man, a quick chance to say thank you for the comments you've made over the past year or so about seasons and their emotional effects. The first shining light from a real person. Appreciated. You just got my subscription. Thanks again. Well, thank you. Oh, Jones at work has some downtime for now. All right, I keep trying to decide. That's the problem when things are going along. You never know when to call it a night or call it a day. It's 5:18 here, so I've been on a little over 2 hours. might be a good time for me to stop, huh? Oops. All right, I don't have see any other questions coming up or any other comments involving or inviting me. So I'm going to let you all go, and who knows, I might be back in the middle of the night, even sometime during the week or something. Just depends on my sleeping habits. Since I'm retired, I don't sleep according to schedules anymore. I sleep when I'm tired and I wake when I'm not. That often means that I'm napping early in the evening and then waking up in the middle of the night. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Go back and rewatch. And see you all next time, whenever that happens to be. Good night or good morning, as the case may be. So long.